How's everybody doing tonight?
Well, I am doing very well.
Great.
And you guys?
Doing all right.
It's a great day. It's going to be a great evening.
Well, welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel it as well.
Yeah, me too.
Welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Retro Roundtable.
Yeah, it was kind of on a whim, really quickly, not planned at all.
We'll still be doing our regularly scheduled roundtable next week, but in the meantime, we have something special for you. We are going to be reviewing the reviews of Kevtriss's brainchild, the Super NT. So, yeah, go ahead.
So what's the agenda? What do we're starting off first?
I think first I have to give a shout out to a little TV show from the Burly Bear Network called Dave and Steve's Video Game Explosion, who we owe even the idea for a review show. If you haven't seen Dave and Steve's Video Game Explosion, it's 10 episodes. They're on YouTube. It's some of the highest quality content you'll find there, and so I highly recommend you go check that out.
I don't think we'd be here today if it wasn't for Dave and Steve's Video Game Explosion.
Yeah, truly an inspiration. I think they kind of pioneered this genre.
Yep.
So,
okay.
yeah, let's jump into it. We've got, I believe, 10 reviews to go through, and we'll give our thoughts on each of them, and then at the end we'll have a final ranking, 1 to 10, a top 10 list, if you will.
Okay. Per each of us, or
No, I have the objective top 10 list.
Got it, of course.
So let's start with number 1.
Number 1, like the first one. We're not ranking them right now, right?
Yeah, no, this is not ranking.
Okay,
this
so
is,
first one.
Yeah, the first one up, as I change the picture here, is the Cinemassacre review.
A timeless classic, Nick. A timeless classic.
You know, if I started this one, I probably wouldn't have done this episode with you guys. I would have bailed out if this was the only one I did.
Yeah, this was the first one I watched. I think it's worth pointing out that the reason for that is because they broke the embargo by like 12 hours. And so they had a little bit of an unfair start on everybody.
Well, you know, I watched that one a couple of times just for the sheer comedic value of their offerings. You know, I watched that, and I want to just ask everybody here: were there Nigerian terrorists standing by the camera wielding AK-47s? Did anybody see any terrorists? I mean, did their lives depend on the success of this infomercial?
Maybe they saw terrorists.
Oh, pay attention to their faces and demeanor. Someone was going to die that day if that damn video didn't go well. And Jesus Christ, how much weed does that Ryan guy smoke anyways?
He loaded up before that episode, I could tell you that much.
I mean, either he just got out of the hot tub or he was just pouring with sweat because I mean, I'm telling you, there was some ulterior motives here. There's something was going on that we weren't privy to, and his technical explanations were akin to Benny Hinn and Joel Osteen holding a classical mechanics physics class. It's just fucking unreasonable.
Yeah, I think there are some pretty amazing quotes from that one. The one that I wrote down. Well, I wrote down 3, but my initial one that I was like, oh man, this is going to be gold mine for quotes, was software emulation will never give you the experience that a real console will because we live in an imperfect world.
Okay. Electrons flow through reality. Is this a goddamn philosophical recap, or are we talking about video game hardware here?
Yeah, I think this was a science fiction video more than a technical discussion about a product, but
yeah, I mean, but in seriousness, where do you think the direction, or what was the direction of that video for them? I mean, what do you think they had in their minds when they set out to shoot this? Okay, we're going to wing this thing for 10 minutes. Let's make a quick short. What were they thinking? To quote the man himself.
I think they were they thought that they could wing it without any preparation. I mean, there was another review which is later on, which we'll get to, is by Giant Bomb, who had the same kind of like dudes sitting on a couch talking about it off the cuff, but it like they clearly thought about it ahead of time, whereas this one was just like, let's just see what happens.
I think that they were sent a unit, maybe, and they were required to post a review, and it was the last minute.
Yeah, like, oh,
they
shit.
didn't do it yet. Yeah. Oh crap, we gotta get this review up. And they probably mixed up AM and PM too.
Yeah,
I think it's just incompetence.
Might explain why they broke the embargoes. They're just like, oh my god, this is due today.
Yeah, it's due today. Shit, we got like a couple hours left before 11 p.m. or something.
Ryan's dude, I just hit the bong 5 times. I can't do this.
It certainly shows, because those two, they appeared to be sweating profusely. They really look like sitting death. I don't know if they just, if there was something going on in the background. I don't know if Nigerian terrorists were there, but there is something is going on with those two. And I want to find out. I want to get to the bottom of it. But yeah. That's all I had to say.
Fortunately, this is probably the only extremely negative review we have up on the lineup today of reviews. But this one was just, I mean, chock full of misinformation, quotes that don't even make any sense. Just like stating things without probably understanding what they were saying. Like, there's a whole confusing discussion that they came into where they were talking about emulation, but using, I think Mike was talking about how he prefers using actual cartridges, and it was kind of this mixed signals, not really understanding that using an actual cartridge, you may still have emulation going on, like on the Retron or something.
Nick and Steve, were you able to understand? Maybe
No.
I interpreted
No.
what he said. Okay.
Yeah, nothing.
Well, maybe I interpreted what he said wrong, but Ryan said he made a comment referring to the a Super Contra 3 on the Super NT, the audio playback. And he basically said, the audio is so good, these aren't MP3s that are playing the sound back. Maybe I read that wrong, but I took that as he was inferring that emulation and sound emulation are using MP3 slices to generate audio?
That's what I thought at first, but then, yeah, Nick, go ahead.
I think what he was going for was that it's not trivial to like recreate a sound chip. You can't just like play an MP3 and get the exact same sound you would out of an original
it's the console's generating waveforms.
Yeah.
And instead of
which is why your software solutions sound like garbage, because they're just doing a bad job of recreating that sound chip. That was fine, but I mean, of course, confusing.
Okay.
Just confusing. Like, talking about FPGAs, he made the statement that really annoys me, that it actually becomes a Super Nintendo, which is just so silly. And it's this lore that's been built up about FPGAs, that they're these magical devices out of Star Trek, like a replicator or something. But then he followed that up with, I hear it runs better than a Super Nintendo. So I don't know how it's running better than a Super Nintendo if it actually is a Super Nintendo. But
yeah, I think he was just stepping into territory that he shouldn't have gone into when discussing those types of technical things. There's other reviewers who stayed out of that completely, and I think it was better that they did that instead of talking about things they don't fully understand.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to say that a lot of people make the argument, well, you know, their genre isn't so much talking about the technicalities of something. They're video game players. Well, that's fine and good. If that is in fact not their forte, maybe they should just stay out of it and not be in receipt of criticisms when not them specifically, but when anybody says a lot of fantastically ridiculous things, right?
Totally agree. Yeah, just stick to your wheelhouse, which a lot of other people did. So, I think we can move past this one. They did have one really good point I thought was worth mentioning, is either include in the box or have maybe a PDF online that kind of gives a manual describing all the settings that are available in the menu. Because, I mean, it's you can go a couple layers deep in those advanced settings and kind of get lost and not really know what you're doing. So I think that was a really good point to bring up. I actually made notes about all the videos that kind of approach things from a consumer perspective like that, as opposed to necessarily a technical expert. Like, that's always, I think, a good thing to include in your review. Is like, if I'm a consumer and I'm don't have a super high level of expertise, what would I want out of it? And I thought that was a good point. So
yeah.
Yep.
All right, so let me flip up the picture here and get on to some more positive vibes. See, the next one we got here is Metal Jesus, our old buddy.
Oh yeah, good old MJR.
I liked this review. I thought it was good.
I did too. I thought he did a very good job.
Yeah.
I guess my main thing that I liked is that sorry, the audio kind of went messed up. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I kind of liked his. He had the most extensive test. Well, I don't know about the most extensive, but he showed the most tests in the video.
Agreed.
And I thought that was good.
He explicitly stated, like, here's a bunch of cartridges that I've seen fail on other clone consoles or whatever. Like, these are things I know historically have tripped up devices. So let's go test those. So I thought, that was really good.
Yeah, I think that was the highlight of his video, was that he I mean, there were other videos that are like, oh, it played everything I threw at it, right? You know, and just kind of like gloss over that. He was like, okay, here we got, super stunt race FX, right? And this usually screws up, so I'm gonna pop this guy in, and then it shows it running, and then he moves on to like some Super Famicom games and all this other stuff that had problems. And I thought that was really useful for somebody who might be looking to buy this device.
I felt that I really felt that Metal Jesus Rocks, his video on the Super NT was probably the most thorough from a practical standpoint. I think it was the most practical review. Didn't have to be super technical. It's kind of like what Steve said. You know, there are a list of games that are just problematic with ASIC-based SNESs and other sort of clone systems. I know these are broken. Let's just try them. If they work, great. That's my benchmark. I don't have to get to the technical details. This is just something that's commonly understood. So from a practical point of view, I think that Metal Jesus Rocks probably had one of the best videos on the Super NT. That's just my opinion. It was really good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I thought my only real criticism of it was that he glossed over the settings menu like really fast. I think what he said was, I don't think many of you will bother with stuff this deep in the settings.
Yeah, he said you will never have to get into this, is what he said. Most of you will never even have to get into this.
Didn't he say, like, it looks really good right out of the box so you don't have to touch anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you think it was lacking and he kind of glossed over that, what would be the alternative if his goal was to keep it focused on the compatibility and the playability? Like, what would have been the alternative then?
I mean, I don't think he necessarily needed to go like as deep in as like we'll get into my life in gaming next as they did with all the settings, but I mean, just a little more talking about like maybe I don't remember it well enough anymore. It was a kind of a swamp of videos, but I didn't think he even went into like the interpolation menu or the scan lines menu or anything like that. Just to show what was there and say like you can add scan lines and you can change their the depth of the scan lines and make it like a 10-second thing. I mean, it's just nice to know those features exist. You don't have to go into the details of them.
So do you think it could have just like shown what the available features are and say, I like it without changing anything. If you guys are more interested, maybe like there's going to be other videos that go into this in more depth or something like that. Do you think that's worth saying?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
His review is also the first one I noticed where, like, right up front, he said, "I was sent these consoles for free to test." So disclaimer up front, which I don't think was ever mentioned in Cinemassacres, and that kind of annoyed me. Like at any point, whether they spent their own money on it or not.
Wait a minute. What's important to differentiate and distinguish there is they may have been sent a review unit for free, or they sent a review unit to send back within 7 days or however much time, or were they sent a unit to keep indefinitely? I mean, there's a big difference there. I mean, if you make a video and you say, this was sent to me, this is a review unit that was sent to me, then I have to return, maybe your opinion would hold. Maybe I wouldn't feel you weren't being as biased as if you were to say, Super NT, they sent me one of every color, and I get to keep them forever, and here's my review.
So, I mean, I disagree with that, but I think
you don't think that incentive. You don't think that predisposes. Wait a minute. You don't think that predisposes somebody any more or less if they're given a product to indefinitely keep as opposed to a review unit they have to return X amount of days after their video's finished?
It's not conclusive. It doesn't. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that could happen. I mean, it could increase the chances overall of the general population that would, if you have like a sample of people, it might increase the chances that they might be more biased, but I don't think this necessarily means that.
So a few things. As long as you're clear about that up front too, then I'm a lot more happy and willing to trust you, right? Like with that Cinemassacre review, I don't know if they got a bunch of units sent to them for free. Like I don't care whether they keep it or not. Honestly,
I don't think they even remember.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that's a crucial piece of evidence, or that's a crucial piece of information.
I've
for
seen
anybody
reviews where people have been sent stuff for free and have said negative things about it. So I don't know.
It's not an absolute, but I mean, based on the current gamut and landscape of YouTube reviewers, especially in this sort of area, I think that disclosures like that are integral or very pivotal in one's influence. So I think
it's more important to me. Is there a disclosure or not? But we're getting into the weeds here. Let's go on.
Let's just go on. Nick, you're monopolizing the conversation. Please move along.
All right, let's pull up the boys. Oh man, I got to pull up 2 pictures for this. So we got Try up here.
Are we doing my life in gaming?
Yep. And let me add my Corey picture. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah. Oh, he's taking up the whole screen.
Well, I thought, of course, their videos are just high quality in general, but I should mention that disclaimer that I was asked to help proofread their script, so I don't want to be biased. I I might be biased in my review of this review.
No, we appreciate the disclaimer up front, and it's something My Life in Gaming did up front in their video too. Is just mention that they had been sent them for free. So I appreciate the upfront disclaimer, Steve, and Mark and Corey. I thought this was, yeah, I mean, of course, from many perspectives, this was the best review of the thing. They, I think, nailed the discussion about what an FPGA is pretty well. I'd probably thanks in part to you adding to that as being.
Yes, we did edit some of that, and we talked about various definitions and things, and I think it came out really well how they described it.
Yeah, the stuff with Kevtris was fantastic. I thought. I like.
Yeah.
Just having those little insights kind of sprinkled throughout is, I think, what made their review the most unique out of all of them.
Yeah, and when he was first telling me about it, this was Try. He was telling me, like, this is the first time we're gonna kind of do like a mashup where it's like hybrid review, RGB episode and interview documentary, and I think it's gonna be awesome. I'm like, dude, it sounds amazing. And it was amazing. Like, it was, like you said, those little bits, like the EverDrive thing or the flash cart business, and he's like, oh yeah, I won't hurt the Super Etsy. I just loved it.
Yeah,
that was so awesome.
They did a great job of like getting 2-second clips of him like that at a couple points, which I thought were just really funny and really well done. And obviously their editing skills are a league above everybody else. It's like not even fair. So that was cool. What other notes did I have? I thought it was really cool. They showed a lot of those weird add-ons work, like the ones that Kevtris had, things that I had never seen plugged into a Super Nintendo before. Mentioning that all those works, I think, really builds your confidence that the build of the FPGA is close to accurate as possibly could be. I thought what was most interesting about that was he almost seemed surprised himself that some of that stuff worked.
Yes,
yeah,
he did.
yeah.
Well, he was mentioning. I don't remember if this was in My Life in Gaming video or Bob's interview with Kevin about how he approached the reverse engineering in a totally different way this time, where he had like 3 main chips that he needed to duplicate, and he would like start emulating one of them and still have the 2 physical ones on his board.
Okay.
And
I think that was Bob's interview.
Yeah, and I think that was super interesting. I think and he was just amazed that he was able to do that so quickly and with this type of accuracy, and that all the peripherals worked because he developed it in this type of like black box reverse engineering fashion. So yeah, it was super awesome. I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is they went into the specifics of what each menu item did.
Yeah, and like they gave their optimal settings in addition to that. So on like a layer above explaining what everything is, they said, we went ahead and like optimized this for the way we like it, and here's what we did. So it's like a really good jumping off point for yourself if you want to use just their settings. I think that's really neat. And
they didn't just explain it in words. They explained it in the visuals, which I think is huge because some of this stuff is really difficult to explain in words. So I don't know. Zach, do you have any more thoughts?
I think that the My Life in Gaming video was the shittiest video. I'm just kidding. The My Life in Gaming video was the best. What Mark and Corey do very well is the union and marriage between the very technical and deep things to the the gamer-esque side. So if you can get just the people who like technology, but really like the vintage gaming. If you can talk to that group of people while also satisfying the super technical people that like all of the real sort of jargonic details, if you can do that well, you've got a killer video. Their production quality is by far beyond anything else, any other video. The content was good. The interview with Kevin, the sort of the seamless transitions between talking about the Super NT and then having little snippets with Kevin, and Kevin kind of providing some sort of commentary to the video. I thought it was an outstanding video, probably one of their best videos.
Yeah, they also, if you're interested in seeing comparison to other ways of playing the Super Nintendo, they're the best video to go to for that. So they'll have a bar that represents the Super NT and a bar that represents a one-chip SNES and a bar that represents, and you'll be able to actually compare like pixel to pixel what things look like, which, that's a function of them having all this stuff on hand and being able to quickly spin that stuff up and capture. So that's really sweet. And I think they're the only video that actually gave a shout out to the accuracy of software emulators. Like, I thought it was pronounced Hygan. Corey pronounced it Higan. I don't know which is actually right, but
I think Higan is what, if you were reading it in like Japanese romanization, is how you would.
Okay, so Higan.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was really nice of them to do, because I think software emulation gets a bad rap sometimes, and the amount of work that went into that and continues to go into that to make that as accurate as possible, I don't think that people should take that for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
Then I think they did a lot of Super Game Boy stuff in their video too, which other people did some Super Game Boy things. Just to mention that the audio goes through the cart, but they did some significant like speed tests to make sure everything is running at the right clock, because the Super Game Boy runs on its own, or the Game Boy hardware inside the cart kind of like runs on its own. And it's using the Super NT as the host, and they just wanted to make sure everything still ran at what it's supposed to, even with the Super Game Boy 2 that had its own oscillator. Mm-hmm. Nailed it. It looks like the best Super Game Boy solution to play on if you wanted to do that.
Yep.
Cool.
That's all I got for that one. So let me kill Corey here. Sorry, buddy. And
he'll be back.
Dr. Kleiner.
Let's go on to John Hancock next. Man, I have to say the best part of preparing for this was taking snapshots of people's video at like the worst times I could possibly find. But some people made it hard on me, like not appearing in their video. So those people get negative points. But John, I was able to get a very awkward still.
Very nice.
Yeah, so this one, right off the bat, he did kind of give a disclaimer that it was sent to him, but I felt like it was kind of a little muddled the way he did it. Could have been a little clearer, but at least he mentioned it. And then he, I think, was the only one that did it like an unboxing type video to start.
I think that was good.
Yeah, people like seeing that stuff. There's a reason that's popular. People want to know what they're getting out of the box. So I think that was a valuable aspect to it.
Because you got the Super Turrican cardboard box. None of the other reviews I wouldn't have known. That came with. And also there was like a little slip, like some paper, some kind of documentation that shipped with the unit. I don't know what the details were in there, but it was nice to see that they actually put some piece of paper with some info. Maybe there's a very small amount of info and there's links to get more. So that it's at least you're not out there in the middle of nowhere with no help. Like, you have at least a little piece of paper that comes with, say, hey, we got you.
Yeah. He also really did a good job of focusing on like the physical aspects of it, such as like how it actually felt as a console. You know, mentioned its weight and the design of it. I thought that was nice. And for his cartridges, although he wasn't as specific, he wasn't as explicit about testing or saying that he was testing things to try to break it. He did choose the games that he tested by, you know, he chose an import game, he chose an FX chip game, he tested the Super EverDrive, and he tested a homebrew by Retrobit. So he was obviously like, you know, going for that same kind of thing that Metal Jesus was, even though he maybe didn't specifically say that. But I thought that was good. That I like when people do that kind of testing. Like, not just pick 4 regular SNES games and call it a day.
Yep. Yeah, I think you just mentioned this, but I wanted to like highlight it a little bit more that the he was the one that explained the plastic shell. Like it, I mean, it looks like plastic, but it actually is good plastic because everybody's used to the clone console, the generic clone console plastic, which feels like junk.
Yeah.
And but he's like, this is actually really high quality plastic. And then he mentioned that there's a rubber mat on the bottom?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was good to cover because, like, if you just look at it on all these shots and you don't see the bottom, you're like, this thing could flop around everywhere. You have a SNES Mini. Does that have a sliding around problem?
No, but I mean, I haven't put it in situations where that would end up being an issue. But yeah, okay. I mean, it doesn't have a rubber or anything on the bottom, so I guess it could.
Okay.
I also just haven't used that thing. I mostly bought it for traveling, so I haven't used it that much yet. Let's see, what else do I have about him? His settings menu, again, it was like he didn't really cover it in depth, so I wish people would have gone into more on that. Yeah, so that's about it that I had for this one. Not too much. It was kind of a short video.
I think it was a basic video. It's general covered a lot of various things. Nothing too in depth.
It was a perspective they didn't get from some of the other ones that I thought.
Yeah.
Like from that unboxing aspect. So that was cool.
Yes. Zach, do you have any thoughts?
You know, it was a fine video. I other than actually going over sort of the cosmetics of the Super NT, there's nothing really notable I have to add to that video.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty basic. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't a bad video at all. Just nothing too remarkable I can really comment on.
All right, next one is This Does Not Compute, which is probably the one that I like remember the least from watching, to be honest. So I'm mostly gonna have to go off my notes.
It was very straightforward, and the pacing was very quick. It just got you through. I think that's why, unless you had notes, you're not going to remember like specific things.
I'll just say it. I'm not saying it to be rude. It's very bland content. I mean, it was just the presentation was just very lackluster. Not that there's anything wrong with the presentation of that video. It's just it really almost lulled me to sleep. I have to be honest. It's like
it was a little boring from what I remember, but
I think the goal of the video was to just kind of get you the basics through you quickly. And
I did write down that he actually opened the thing up.
Yes.
So that was nice. That was kind of rare. I didn't see too many people do that. He also went into a piece of the settings menu kind of more in depth about the whole 60 hertz issue, like how you've got the setting that uses the frame buffer and then the setting that's just zero lag, and you can kind of pick which one you want depending on whether you're going for the accuracy or or whether your monitor will even support that 60.08 frame rate. So that was kind of cool. I don't think anyone else went as in depth on that one.
I thought the production quality was good.
Yeah, production quality was totally good.
It's quite good.
It was not a difficult video to watch. I think the only one was probably the first one.
Yeah. He did say something about the sound. I think he was talking about because it's digital, the frequency response sounded a bit more natural and detailed. I don't really know what he meant by that.
Me neither.
So
I think he might have just noted that it sounded different.
Yeah.
And he was trying to, maybe a slightly different, he was just trying to explain that in a way.
All right, let's move on. I don't have too much to say about that one. Who's next? GameXplain.
I don't remember that video.
Which one's that?
GameXplain was pretty short. They're the one that has like the really hilariously flashy logo at the start that like kind of comes in from the top and settles down.
Yeah.
This one did not give any disclaimer about whether they were sent the unit for free or paid for it themselves or anything like that. He used my pet peeve of a quote, which was that it's not emulation, it's simulation, which is just always, like, I know it's stupid, it's just always going to annoy me. Like,
why does it annoy you so much? Can you explain to me kind of quickly why that, and that really does rivet you? I would like to understand.
Well, first of all, it's a distinction without a difference. You're just picking words with the same definition. Like,
I don't think they have the same definition, though.
Yeah, I don't either.
We went over this on our podcast on the another episode in detail, but I think we could quickly explain it if you're interested in hearing my take on it.
Sure. Let's keep it short, but yeah, go for it.
So I think the difference is when something is an emulation, its goal is to end up replicating and actually replacing. Whereas in a simulation, if I build a circuit in Spice and simulate it, I'm not taking my speaker amplifier Spice circuit and jamming it in my speaker, and it's replaced my speaker circuitry.
It's a good analogy.
I mean, that is one definition of simulate, but there's another definition of simulate, which is to recreate the functionality of one thing using another thing.
Yeah, but it's not. Its goal is to not end up replacing.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
That's where I think the key is the replacing, where if your intent is to replace that function with this new thing that does the replicates the functionality, then you're emulating that.
Okay, well, anyway, that's not really the source of my pet peeve about it. My source of the pet peeve is that it's marketing lingo to distinguish what's going on from software emulation, and that's all it is. Software emulation has a bad rap because people have,
wrote shitty software emulators.
Yeah, shitty software emulators, and so in order to distinguish it, they were looking for a word to do that, and
I don't know if it's they. I think this is something Kevin does himself because
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, I disagree with Kevin on this point. So
I disagree too. But his basis for this is that his definition of emulation is not the actual definition of it, but is what he thinks about when he hears the word emulation.
Okay.
And based on that, that's why he thinks it should be called simulation.
I think it's more of a connotation of the word as it's
which
defined.
To me just screams it just screams like a marketing thing. Like
and at the end of the day, like you said, it doesn't matter. It's just that what you don't like about it, what leaves a bad taste in your mouth, is that they're just trying to put this marketing spin on it to explain away, or not have to explain anything, but just say it's not this, and then magically it's gone. Yeah.
Right. It's a good point. That's fair.
Emulation isn't a dirty word to me, so I think it's
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah, agreed. But we should get to the actual.
The rest of the notes I had were pretty short for this. I thought that this one also did a good job of coming at it from a consumer perspective, and so it wasn't super technical at all. It was very short. So,
yeah, I mean, it did cover Super Game Boy stuff. I remember that. And all these ones that covered the Super Game Boy, they made sure to explain that you got to go into the menu
to get the audio. Yeah, important point.
Yeah, because by default that audio is not enabled. So I think that's worth noting that they mention that so people aren't confused when they plug their Super Game Boy in and they get
then it doesn't work right. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go on to Jeremy Parish, which I like Jeremy a lot. I just thought I was so bored. I don't know why. It was a very sleepy presentation of it, I thought. The content was pretty good, actually. But just the way it was presented, he didn't seem like very excited to be doing the review at all to me. I don't know if you got the same feeling or not.
I didn't, but maybe because I watched this as one of the first ones and I wasn't burnt out by watching back-to-back reviews of the same thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also don't have much time, so I had to watch it at a faster speed.
I watched this one at 1.5 speed, and I was still bored.
Yeah.
But the comparison to the SNES Classic, I thought was just kind of slow and not all that interesting. I mean, there was plenty of good parts about this. Like, he tried every single special chip cartridge he had. So he went and was like, this one's got the FX chip, I'm going to try that. This one's got this other kind of chip, I'm going to try that. And he went through all those.
I think the most notable one is there was a homebrew title that came up. Yeah, that he knows is poorly designed. And yeah, you could go ahead.
This was the one that locked up his system. I was just going to ask, right?
Yeah, this is the one where he put it in his actual SNES Mini, and it crashed, and it wouldn't reboot until he unplugged power completely from his SNES Mini.
Just turning the system off and putting in a different cartridge, it stopped working. Like that wasn't sufficient, right?
Yeah, I think it latched up the CPU or something and had to cut power completely so it could get out of latch up.
It's very brave of him to jam that in the Super NT.
Yeah.
But he did, and it worked.
But he did.
No problem. No problem. I mean, I don't know if that's brave of him. Like, I think that's
pretty enterprising.
I would just do. That's something I would do. I'm like, man, I got to put this through its paces. I'm going to jam this in there, and then he knows, like, if there is a problem, he'll be able to report it. You feel good about reporting a problem, and then they'll probably replace it. They'll probably replace it too if it's something did get damaged.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I know that, like, during this whole reviewer period, they were really treating it like part reviewer period, part beta. So, like, a lot of these guys that got the early units were helping them make firmware updates before it got released, so that any last bugs were squashed. So yeah, and he kind of talked about that whole, like, he used the term hardware simulation, but he kind of explained what an FPGA was doing, and goes into the fact that it's done by a human being, and that it has to be done well. So it's not like this magic thing that just becomes a SNES and it's perfect. So I appreciated that, even if we disagree on lingo.
Yeah, no, as long as you make note that it's not just the magic.
Yeah.
That's good because in the future we're probably going to see more consoles based on FPGA, and if the person behind it is what really matters. So if they didn't do a good job, then they're not going to get Super NT Kevtris quality.
Yep.
And you can already see that with well, I mean it's the cores are the cores. Whoever makes them makes them. But the Mist FPGA multi-purpose apparatus that can do NES, Commodore 64, a variety of different systems. That's all FPGA implementation, and a lot of those cores that people run on that thing suck. So. Yeah, it's really it's a battle of lingo, really, in my opinion.
Cool. All right,
That's all I have to say.
Let's go on to LAN TV.
I
didn't see that one.
I liked it a lot. It was one of my favorite. I don't know why. I'll try to remember why.
Well, for starters, to satisfy Zach, his disclaimer, he pointed out that he actually paid for his and was just sent it early. Again, to me, I don't care, but
yeah, he mentioned like this is nobody checked this review before I post. Nobody censored it or anything. This is exactly my thoughts. Yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
Good. Then he's won in my book.
I think it's worth watching. I really enjoyed it. He has like a peppy personality, and you can tell like he's got computers, like vintage computers in the back, so you know he's really like into like techie things. And based on what I saw, it seems like he understands it well. He explained the FPGA thing is not magic, and it replicates behavior. Like that's like the key word that I'm looking for. And he mentioned that, and did some tests. He did lag tests. I think he was the only one who actually had lag numbers on for different things versus his RGB modded SNES Mini versus the Super NT versus the SNES Classic versus I think don't quote me on this, but maybe like a Retron 5 or something like that, or different clone console. So he had like a chart of numbers.
Yeah,
he
I think those are all right. I thought that was a really cool comparison as well. That was pretty unique to his. So that was awesome. He mentioned My Life in Gaming as a shout out for like, hey, I'm not going to be able to give you the advanced settings that you should do. Go check out their video. So that was a pretty nice shout to them, and recognizing where he has expertise and where he doesn't. So what else? He did sound comparisons as well. Which was kind of glossed over by every single other review for the most part, other than maybe people saying that it doesn't sound like a shitty clone console.
Well, I mean I know we were kind of trashing him a bit. The Cinemassacre video, they did talk about sound, and they did talk about like I listened to the sound, and I was kind of shocked that like Final Fantasy 3 and like all these games, like they sounded really good, and usually the sound quality on these are really bad. So
other people definitely mentioned it, but like he actually had that segment where he played sound.
He played the sound, so okay,
so you could hear it. Again, apologies to anyone where we may have gotten something wrong, because we were really cramming in 10 review videos here, and it's possible that somebody else did that. These are notes that I took trying to get these all in. But so that was, I just thought that was notable about his. So he also did a comparison to the Super Retro Trio and a SNES Classic, and he pointed out kind of from a consumer perspective, one of the things that this thing lacks is save states. So if you're familiar with like that kind of thing and you enjoy that about the SNES Classic, you won't have that on this console.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good.
It's a very good point.
I think the only other time I've heard that, it wasn't in any other of these reviews, but I think I heard that in Bob's interview with Kevin, and that's the only two times I heard it mentioned. Because you know, from a consumer, they're that's used to these types of things, they would expect that. I mean, us maybe not so much because we play on real hardware,
right?
But for other people who might be migrating from a SNES Classic or a Retron 5, and they're just familiar as that as a standard feature, it's good that they mentioned that.
I agree.
Or he mentioned that.
All right, let's go on to one of my other favorite ones, which was the GameSpot one. Peter Brown over at GameSpot. Unfortunately, he didn't appear on camera, so I couldn't get anything awkward. And all of his pictures, when I did a Google image search, are so goddamn handsome. It's very frustrating.
Blimey. You didn't message him on Twitter and be like, "Hey, we need a bad-looking picture of you."
That's right.
Could you please send us a shitty picture, sir?
So yeah, he. Let's see. What do I have down for this review? I think obviously the coolest thing was bringing up that they found that issue with two different cartridges. The Mortal Kombat 2 sprites weren't rendering properly, and he told them about that, and they fixed it within 48 hours, which is pretty sweet.
And the presentation of that, where he shows the video of the before the patch, and everything's all messed up and things are moving, and kind of like fades in it with it patched.
Yeah.
And it's fixed perfectly. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, super good editing. I was talking to him over Twitter, and he mentioned that they had to do this in like a 24-hour period. They didn't have like the luxury of a month to shoot this video, just because GameSpot's a big company and there's all sorts of people to coordinate with. So putting that video together was like done really quickly. So I was like stunned at how well that video. You would never have known that.
That is super polished video, one of the most polished out of these we've seen.
They also found a bug in a repro cart called Rendering Ranger R2.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's still being worked on, according.
Yeah, not fixed yet. So that's pretty sweet. He nailed FPGA discussion, one of the best, saying that it replicates the hardware when done correctly. I think a very important point. He went into the resolution and scanline stuff, but I think there were some of the other menu options that he didn't go into, but
I think it's possible that he might have had a time budget on this video.
Yeah, that's true too. It was pretty short, like 9 minutes, right?
Yeah.
He does talk about and compare it to some of the other clone consoles, and then he tested things like, again, cartridges with special chips and the Super Game Boy. So I think overall, everybody did a really good job of knowing that those were things to test out in particular. So, good stuff. I like this one a lot. All right, only have one left. Blew through this.
Zach, did you have anything to add on that?
No.
All right.
Okay.
No. Move it along.
Zach, did you watch the video?
I don't answer questions.
This one was huge. Oh, jeez.
I don't have all fucking day to watch videos. God damn it.
All right, here's the giant bomb one.
I did see this one.
See, this is the one I didn't see because
it was 2.5 hours long because it was done as a live stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only watched the first 15, 20 minutes of it.
It was on in the background as I was working. I didn't pay close attention to it because I can't watch these guys for 2.5 hours at any given time. But I mean, You know.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought I was gonna hate it when it first started. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be Cinemassacre Part 2 because it's the same like couch buddies. But actually, like, I was surprised. They all seem like super sharp dudes. Especially the guy that was actually playing, who has the most obnoxious face in the screenshot that I have of him. It's amazing. You gotta just bring this up to full size here. But that guy is like really sharp and knows his stuff, and he did a great job of like diving into menus. He is, maybe I'm a little biased because he agrees with me that it's emulation and it's not infallible. And then those other two guys gave a great consumer perspective of it. They were a little less technical, and actually I think one of the guys was even like not all impressed with what you got for the money. Like, so it wasn't like an all positive review. It was just like, if I'm going to pay $189 plus a bajillion dollars in shipping that for some reason UPS charges, I want something more. So I think that like he probably has NT Mini experience and wants the,
It's good to have that perspective though, because like people like us, when we like see this great technical feats and we're amazed that this thing does all this stuff, but to someone who just wants to play games at a certain cost, I mean, it doesn't matter to them. So it's good to have that perspective.
And for someone who could just get a SNES Classic and play some of the games that they're familiar with for a pretty cheap price, and maybe they don't really care about that whatever 2 frames of lag that thing has. They might look at this thing, get it, plug in a cartridge, and not appreciate what they're getting out of it, because they're not familiar. If they haven't played that system in a long time, they're not familiar with how shitty it's going to look if they were just to take their old, composite cables and throw it on a 65-inch TV. So I think it's a good perspective of, there's a big market out there of people. There are the nostalgia people and there are the videophile people, and those are completely different markets. Even if you want to hit both of them, you gotta make a case for it.
Yeah. I don't really have much. I mean, it was a live stream. I can't really even remember anything about that, Nick. I was busy.
Right. I would say it's worth watching the first 15-20 minutes.
Do they do an unboxing of any sorts, or no?
No.
Yeah, it was already set up because I'm sure they have like a complicated studio set up there to get everything working properly. But I mean, I would give they're funny guys too, so it's a good watch. But again, I didn't watch all 2.5 hours.
I'll say this, and this is in respect. I don't think we're not hating on Cinemassacre, like personally. This is a critique, right? But I'll say that the video that we're talking about right now is what the Cinemassacre video should have been, if anything.
Yeah, I think Cinemassacre very easily could have been like this video had they just had a rough agenda ahead of time and didn't feel like it was totally rushed and unplanned and unprepared. Like these guys were off the cuff completely, and it was fine. So it worked.
Yeah. The Cinemassacre video was just. I'm sorry. That was an embarrassment. I would have been embarrassed. I would have personally, even if somebody of my stature and caliber would have put a video out like that, I would have been mortified and deeply embarrassed and ashamed. I'd really be shaming myself right now.
Well, then you should be excited for our final reviews. All right.
Are we done? Are we already through all the videos?
Yeah, we're through all of them. So we got 10 that we went through. Let me change the picture. Let's see. Something that's more representative of something that people are going to like to look at while I... Oh, there we go.
Just a quick question, Nick.
This while I...
Is your upload speed, are you on a dial-up or ISDN connection? Because the video quality on YouTube, and I've refreshed a bunch of times, is like terrible.
No, and it's got good stream health going, so maybe it's just you. I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay. No, it's you piece of shit. Oh, yeah. All right.
So, top 10 reviews of the Super NT. And as I alluded to on Twitter, your self-worth as a person is completely determined by the number of clicks that you got on your video. So the top 10 is therefore completely determined by the number of views that you had.
Does this count Click Farm views?
It might. When you hear the results. So these were taken at 4:30 p.m. today, because I had to cut it off somewhere. So number 10, the absolute worst video based on clicks. Lon TV.
Oh.
With a paltry 4,084 clicks. Sorry, Lon. You did a good video, but you're not a good person.
Fantastic video. I love that video. It's one of my favorites. I'm not with it, I guess.
Number 9. Jeremy Parish from Retronauts. 5,821 people put to sleep as of 4:30 p.m. today.
Oh, what a dick.
How many of those were in India?
Number 8 was Peter Brown from GameSpot. Sorry, buddy, you did a great video, but you're not a good person.
The clicks don't lie.
Was it because it was hosted on the on their own website first before they put it on YouTube?
Yeah, he was probably coming at a disadvantage. When I originally watched the video, it was on his website, and I didn't realize that they also put it on YouTube. Maybe they put it on YouTube later or something. So
the clicks tell the real story here.
Maybe if they'd gotten that up there earlier, he would have been ahead of number 7, Mr. John Hancock, who got 8,987 clicks on his video. Slightly ahead. Number 5 was This Does Not Compute, with 12,527 validity points. Good job. Not too shabby. But that got crushed by Giant Bomb in number 5 spot. 20,807 views.
Wow.
No kidding.
That's impressive. And that's all 2 hours and 30 minutes of viewing?
Well, no, we don't have I suppose if I had access to like minutes viewed, these rankings would totally change, but this is, it registers a click as soon as you watch 1 second of that video, so.
Got it. Okay.
Number 4 is My Life in Gaming. Great
Wow.
job, guys. You put out great content. Still not the best video.
Try harder.
Try
You got
harder.
you got a ways to go, boys. I'm sorry.
You had about twice as many clickies as Giant Bomb, so decent job there. Number 3 was GameXplain, showing that you don't need a whole lot of content to get a whole lot of clicks. 41,712 clicks.
Well done.
I had never heard of GameXplain. I don't know if you guys had. It's completely
Who are they?
new to me.
I did not hear of almost all of these.
Do they make videos? I'm not familiar.
This is my first time watching YouTube videos, actually.
Number 2 is Metal Jesus Rocks. 80,000 views.
Nice.
He put his video out a little early, but I don't think enough to juice the numbers too bad.
You think it was an Eastern Central Time error? On his part versus an AM PM error?
He actually apologized. He actually apologized for it. He normally schedules all of his videos at the same time to release at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and his was just on autopilot and threw it on the same scheduler. So he blew it, but not that big of a deal. I think in the end that only released it like an hour and a half, 2 hours early, whatever it was.
Okay.
Number 1, the absolute best review based on clicks, Cinemassacre with 114,203.
Can't
Absolutely.
argue with that.
And justifiably so, too. Well done, guys.
You really
well
can't.
done.
Alrighty. That's everything. We got through it all.
Well, back to work.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm just glad there were more videos other than that number 1. I don't know if I could have watched the 10 number 1 videos.
Yeah, it was a good time. Appreciate you guys hopping on to go through this with me. I was prepared to do this shit myself if I had to.
No, man, we're here. Unlike Bob and Renee, we're actually we're here till the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's driving in the wastelands and has no way of communication.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, the cell phone's down on his moose. So.
Yep, and Bob has been excommunicated from the round table. So.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later, though. We're not supposed to talk about anything.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, let's be careful about what we say here. Okay.
Thank you to all the reviewers for putting out videos, for giving us something to do the last day. It was a good time. And I think we'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed this type of content, random midweek special versions of the Retro Roundtable, let us know in the comments below. Maybe we'll do future things like this if it makes sense. If you have ideas for other fun topics like this, we're open to suggestions. I had a good time doing this. So.
Yeah, I did too. I wish more people were here, but the scheduling, this is so off the cuff. Like, it's, hey, you want to do this tomorrow? And they're like,
yeah,
tomorrow?
Right.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. We will we'll sign off here and see you guys next week for the Retro Roundtable returns. Will Bob be there? Won't he be there? I don't know.
You said you're not going to talk about it.
Bye, everyone.
Later, guys.